Hello, and welcome back to Everyday Writers, your one stop shop for demystifying the writing process. We're here to be helpful guides on your journey to becoming a published author. I'm one of your hosts, Crystal McQueen.
I'm your other host, Jordan S. Keller.
And today we have a very special episode for you. Our very own Jordan S. Keller's latest book is coming out, Falling Gravity. It's going to be released today. And so, as many of you know, Jordan is the author of the Ashes Over Avalon trilogy. It's a superhero romance trilogy whose third book won the Hidden Gems Second Best Hero Book of 2024. And we're so excited to be talking about this latest book.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me on your program. I'm a very big fan of Everyday Writers. But yeah, it feels so surreal for this book, Failing Gravity, to finally be here. I know when I first started thinking about it, it was just a fever dream. I had tweeted out like, "BRB gonna plot out a whole book to the Bad Omens album," and here I am. I'm holding the book of the Bad Omens album.
Okay, well, yeah, let's start with that. Let's actually take a snapshot of your novel. So tell me about it. I know I've read it, but tell everybody else about it.
So, Failing Gravity is a cyberpunk dystopian novel. It's set in a fantastical future, hopefully many, many centuries ahead of our time, where the supervolcano underneath Yellowstone has exploded and has covered the entire world in volcanic ash. And our two main civilizations, there's Akaria, which is this floating sky city, and it's just above the cloud cover, so it's safe and it has no idea what the Earth has become. But inadvertently, it's created this shadow city underneath it called the slum where communities started thriving of like thieves and moonshine distillers and rock'em sock'em robot pilots. And our story is centered on the main character Roman, who's he wants to be the king of the slums. He's created this huge robot, and the it starts to kind of go out of hand. This robot does, and so Akaria thinks Roman is after them, and they send down this force to go arrest them. And it turns out to be his ex best friend Oliver, who might have motives of his own. So that's sort of where the story starts and gets our readers going.
That's an amazing overview. I know we've talked about your book a couple of times in our world building episode. We've talked about it from the perspective of music. So let's talk a little bit about music because I know this isn't the only piece that you've written based on Bad Omens. I've read some short stories of yours. So let's talk a little bit about the specific album that this is based on and how music influences your writing process.
So I'm always inspired by music, but nothing has captivated me as badly as the album's called The Death of Peace of Mind. And when I first heard a couple of songs from it that came up on my Spotify, I'm like, this is gonna be great. And then I played the whole album and I played the whole album again and again and again. And I couldn't listen to anything else. Like I felt like I would go through withdrawals. I would play it overnight. It was the only CD in my car. And anytime I closed my eyes and was listening to that album, I saw Roman. I saw him in this gritty, neon saturated world. And I couldn't shake this feeling, this connection I had to this character. And so that started me writing just little scenes about him and trying to plot out a whole book to the album because the the songs will reference each other in the album. And so I was trying to like string that through the novel and bring it all
Oh,
together. Yeah, I don't know if it probably was done intentionally by their singer. He's very cool. So if you look at my initial outline for the book, it is not what the book became. And I during like the second draft, when I realized I had to break from that outline, it almost felt a little bit like a breakup. Like, but I want this book to be just like this album. That's the cool thing about art is that it'll grow on its own. Um, but I felt, yeah, so, but like you mentioned, music influences everything I do. It's always an inspiration. It's always a soundtrack to the novel. But this was the only novel that only had the same soundtrack through the whole writing process. I
wow.
didn't rediscover songs or anything until after the final draft had been done, and I kind of grew the playlist. There.
Yeah. Well, so I know this isn't specifically about Failing Gravity, but I know we read a horror story that you wrote
Oh,
based on what is it, Less Than Human?
yeah. I submitted to a contest. They wanted horror short stories based on rock and roll music. I'm like, this is my jam. This is perfect. There were so many more perfect entries though, but it's on my blog. It's anything more than human. But trying to
Oh,
take,
we'll post it in the
oh
comments. We'll
yeah,
post it in the comments.
it's very gruesome.
It
Um,
is very gruesome.
oh, yeah, and that to me that song has more of a uplifting feeling toward the end of it, and for me to squash it in that short story I wrote, it was just really cool to do. And they're supposed to be releasing another album shortly. I mean, I'm
Oh,
hopeful for this year. It'll probably be next year. So I go, what am I going to write next with them? Um,
I
yeah, but oh,
Oh no, I had the same obsession with Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill. I was only like 14 when it came out, or like I guess when I started listening to it, it came out before I was 14. But I would listen to it on repeat and on repeat and on repeat. And I really hope this doesn't happen to you. But then her next album came out, and I was I like one song on this. Like what happened to, this very angry, inspired woman?
it is so funny. My husband Charlie, I won't name the band, but one of his favorite bands released an album a while ago, and he didn't really love it as much as the others, and we were sitting down for dinner, and he's real sad. I'm like, babe, what's wrong? And he just goes, I don't think I like my band anymore. Like that does
Oh.
not mean bad. They're a very like experimental band to begin with, so it would make sense. But I'm pretty sure Bad Omens could release anything, and I'll gobble it up.
I mean, to be fair, I still listen to all of her
Yeah,
music. So
when we took that trip together, and our entire road playlist was half Alana Morissette and half Bad
it
Omens.
was, it was. Like I put Alanis Morissette and like a few other like 90s women, and then it was like all Bad Omens. I got to listen to the whole album on
Yeah,
that trip.
so you know now.
I do, I know. I that's still in my playlist, the Death of Peace of Mind.
Good, good.
So speaking of influences on writing, and this is something that also influences my own writing, I know that you experienced a great loss when you were writing this. So can you talk a little bit about that and how that impacted your writing?
Yeah, so in between my trash draft and my first draft, my dad passed away in a car accident that was very sudden. And when oh, me and my mom, we had to do all of the funeral stuff and the will stuff and all that sad stuff that comes with it. And after that, all the grieving process with it, I would always find myself running back to the draft. I would always open my phone and write. I would always go to my computer and write. And I didn't realize it then, but looking back now, I was using Roman and the world of Icaria as my escape because I didn't know how and I didn't want to deal with that grief. And so I chose not to. And so I buried all of those feelings into this book. And I think that's why Roman starts as such just a ruthless character who doesn't know how to be kind, who doesn't know the value of loving someone. Because in the time of me writing it, I kind of lost that value too. Because what's the point of of having people in your life? And so through the novel and through my own life and through therapy, I relearned how to love, and I relearned that it's okay to make these connections with people and that it's okay to ask for help when you need it. And so both me and Roman healed together in this book. And spoiler alert, it ends happily. All my books do. But I think that's why it was so important to end it on a hopeful note, because I needed light at the end of the tunnel. And people who read Failing Gravity, if they need a light at the tunnel, they'll be able to find it.
Do you feel like that influenced you breaking away from the novel, the outline that you had had? Did you feel like that maybe influenced you a little bit to part from what you had originally designed?
Maybe. Yeah, because when I was breaking away from that outline, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I just knew that the story wasn't as strong anymore. I was really trying to link things together that didn't make any sense to be linked. So
Um,
yeah.
yeah, okay, that's really rough. I mean, I know that, and I'm not going to talk about my writing, but I've had that similar experience where I can just feel like grief and loss coming out into my own work. So, like that's really, really hard. Uh, so one of the things that you had just mentioned was like letting go of things, and we always talk about the writing process. So can you talk a little bit about how writing this novel has been different than your previous experience, like the difficulties of writing a standalone novel versus writing a trilogy?
Yeah, it was actually so much more freeing to write a standalone novel. Granted, there are moments in the book where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to expand this, and then I realize, oh, there's not going to be a place to expand it in. So a little sad in those elements, but just being able to write a completed story from start to finish and not have to leave any breadcrumbs for later, not have to
Mm.
leave readers unhappy with an unfinished ending. Um, and and so when I was writing book two and book three of the Ashes Over Avalon series, I had to really stretch out this overarching plot between the two of them. And my walls were covered in sticky notes and post-it notes to try to
Mm.
remember what happens in this book, what needs to happen in that book. And with Failing Gravity, it all just kind of came out naturally. I only had one board of sticky notes to make sure all my stuff was in line. But yeah, it was just so freeing because I didn't have to worry about the future. Whatever Roman needed, he could get in this book, and I didn't have to wait. And gosh, now that I'm saying it, that may have been subconsciously intentional because Jordan going through therapy probably didn't want to wait either. She wanted to be fixed right then and there.
Yeah. Well, have you ever thought about writing, and I'm not saying that like this is, but have you seen those books where they write like a complimentary novel? So there's a book called Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson, and then he wrote another book called Now is the Time to Panic. And both books happen in the same world. There's little references to each book, but really they're standalone, but they stay in the world. Do you think you'd ever revisit Roman's world?
1000%. That's such a great idea, especially after the endings, things have happened, and to explore like 5 years later after it.
Maybe
That
the
would.
next Bad Omens novel. Bad Omens album.
My mom was like, "So when do you email the band and tell them you wrote a book about it?" It doesn't work like that, Mom, and they probably think I was crazy. But she would,
Maybe.
she would.
You don't know. They could be like, that's amazing. We're going to talk about it at our next concert.
Yeah, that's me. Oh, but no, all the companion novels. Okay, now you got me thinking.
It's not common. I know of a couple of books that have done it, like Emily St. John Mandel, the one Station 11. She has a bunch of complementary where like they have some of the same characters, but they're totally different storylines in the same, I guess,
Yeah,
world. So anyway, something to think about.
definitely to think
Um, but speaking of, can you talk a little bit about what you're working on now? Which, when I wrote the interview questions, you were working on something different than what you're working on now. But maybe how's it going? And is there
about.
any music inspiring this piece?
So I'm working on two different things at the moment. One, I'm rewriting an older novel that I had written, um, gosh, probably like 2021-ish, and it's about these two best friends. They go on an adventure. They figure out much more than the eye. And there's magic. There's giant hot air balloons. It's more in a fantastical setting. And so that's my rewrite project. And I'm learning, gosh, I was so wordy when I wrote this draft, and I did not know about filter words. I did not know about character interiority. And so I'm really glad I can give these characters the light they need to shine because I've become a much better storyteller. They deserved a much better story. And then the other project I'm working on, I'm writing a trash draft for a Scooby-Doo inspired ghost kid hunt. We've got a
Mhm.
skeptic, a believer, and a half ghost, and they're going to save the town from some evil ghost invasion, I'm sure. So that's very early stages, and I'm doing a lot of like just eerie background music for that project, the Ghost Kid
Ooh,
project. Yeah, so there's
like
no
what?
vocals, just whatever Spotify tells me.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, I just type in like scary playlist, and it'll be like there's a lot like horror movie background, like that
oh,
kind of
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, and like so that just puts me right into the zone for that. And then I end up scaring myself, and I got to turn all the lights on and like take a break. Um, and then with the balloon project, the rewrite project, it's just a lot of like angsty punk music, which makes sense. That's all I listen to. But I didn't realize how many like "You Were My Best Friend Forever" angsty punk music there was. Because at the time when I was writing it in 2019 or 2021, whenever, I was finding all their songs and now listening to the playlist, I'm adding songs to it. And so seeing how that grows, seeing how the playlist grows in terms of how the book grows is really cool. But nothing as soul gripping as Bad Omens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's amazing. And also, I love the idea of writing to a movie score because it's all based on there's no like lyrics. I've
Yeah,
read that a lot of people, when I say read, like social media comments of people that have said that like they can't do anything with actual words. When I'm writing, I mean, there might be words being sung, but I don't hear it. I just hear the feeling of the music. So,
for me, the voice is almost its own instrument and how it like layers in with like the guitars and the drums and the synth boards and stuff. So like unless it's a real deliberate vocal, like if it's a real like da 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 fast paced, I can't write to it. But yeah, like the vocal just goes in and out of my head, just like you were saying.
have you does your like playlist evolve? You know, maybe like right now it's movie scores and scary music, but maybe there's like as you start to learn more about the characters, will you add
Yeah,
other things?
yeah. Every Friday and Monday religiously, I listen to Spotify's Discover Week. and radar release, and I'm constantly adding new songs I hear into different playlists. I'm even adding songs to the Wildfire playlist even now.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Wow. Oh, I don't know that I would go back. I listen to the playlist for the book that I'm writing now so constantly. And I even think about, or dread, I guess, creating another playlist for whatever I'm going to write next.
yeah.
So anyway, it's just, that's amazing that you do that and you're like, okay, I got to think about which book this is going to go with or whatever.
There's the master Ashes over Avalon playlist, and then each book specific. Do you ever hear a song for a book and it just feels like a car, like a car ran into you, like, oh my God, this is perfect.
Yes, yes, very much. But okay, so here's the tricky thing. We're not supposed to be talking about me. We'll talk about this later.
Okay.
But the tricky thing is when you're listening to music is, if you relate to the character or not. So like, when you had Abigail in Ashes Over Avalon, I could see, and this might not be true, so tell me, you really relating to Abigail, but maybe like Roman didn't feel as like, I don't know, as part of you as so much as like you could see Abigail's point of view. Did that influence anything?
Yes, you're 100% right. I wrote Abigail as the cool chick I wanted to be. Like, what would Abigail do?
Yes.
And then uh, people who heard me talk about Roman early on, they told me like, it sounds like you're talking about an ex-boyfriend. Like after I'd finished the book and like I was sad it's over, and I don't want to like romanticize my own character. That's kind of weird, but just like he was such a part of me, and then to have lost him, but I didn't lose him. He doesn't exist. But like for us to have that same growth path of like just being angry and mean and not wanting to be friends with anyone to blossoming into people who could accept friendship again. So I yeah we experience grief together. Me and this fictional character I pulled from my head.
Yeah. Well, I hate to end this because I mean, you and I could talk for hours, but we are getting to the end of our time. So tell people where they might find out more about you and your writing. I know you guys know our websites and our stuff, but if you have anything else going on, public events that you're going to be doing, anything that people can find out more about you.
So, like I mentioned, I'm Jordan S. Keller. I'm the author of Failing Gravity. It releases today. Please go pick it up. I'm also the author of the Ashes of Avalon series. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Jordan S. Keller Author. And you can find me at jordanskellerauthor.com. Got short stories on my blog on that website, and you can also reach out if you have any questions there. As for public appearances. Nothing yet, but if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll be the first to know, and that sign up's on my website. Crystal, thank you so much for having me on your amazing podcast. I listen to it every week.
Our amazing podcast. But yes, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to be able to promote your book and for us to have this platform to do that. So join us next time, and Jordan and I will talk about the ins and outs of query writing, how to do it, what to watch out for. And we'd love to hear you. And if you love what you hear on Everyday Writers, don't forget to click that subscribe button. And don't forget, every day is a good day to write.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.